Simplified Chaos, episode 29.
Life is beautiful and full of chaos.
And it can get slightly out of hand if that shit's not tamed.
We're here to share how to simplify the little things to start leading a more purposeful life.
This is Simplified Chaos.
Hello, wonderful listeners. Welcome to Simplified Chaos. This is Jillian, and I'm with my co-host, Nicholas.
What's going on, folks? We're back. Back from Copenhagen.
We are.
I said that with a very Baltimore accent. Copenhagen. Damn.
We're feeling very refreshed.
Yes, we are feeling very refreshed. It feels like we haven't done this in a while, but we did leave you with an episode last week on teaching and how we need to listen to kids more.
Yes, if you haven't listened to that one, check it out.
But this week, we are talking about traveling with no expectations.
We sure are.
And it's fucking awesome.
It is. So this episode, we're covering kind of our mindset going into it, how we had no expectations, which made our trip a lot lighter and happier. And we're sharing some of the experiences we've had along the journey and some little bloopers here and there. And how we handled it and how it just ended up being really fun. And it's all about how you go with it. So
that's right.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, before we dive into that, as always, let's talk a little gratitude. Jilly, what are you grateful for? Don't steal mine.
I'm grateful for our hosts.
Damn it!
Shout out to our friends.
So this will be a joint gratitude then.
Yeah. Man, you can't put a price tag on friendship. And just having friends somewhere where you're vacationing makes it so much easier.
Yes.
Because we really didn't do much planning because they were our tour guides, literally. They took us around and showed us the good spots, the good parks, what places were worth visiting, what places may not be worth our time, and showed us some good food places. And It made the trip that much sweeter because they're so awesome and caring, and they shared their home with us and their kitchen, and it was just really, really lovely. I'm so grateful for them.
Yeah, no, and I'm going to second that. This is a friend of mine who I've known since high school, and we've been close friends for a while, and just the fact that they opened up their house to us, let us stay there, joined in some of our fun. I wish they had time to take off of work to do a little bit more with us, but I mean they made the most of it as well during our time there. And even my buddy, he messaged me on our way back and said, he's like, even though I wasn't off of work, he's like, I feel refreshed. And so it was just great catching up, hanging out with them for a long time, and seeing a new country, a new city, and a new way of people living.
Yeah, it's pretty damn epic.
Yeah. So we want to thank them very much for hosting us over the last 9.5 days.
Yeah, thank you guys.
It was amazing.
Can't thank you enough.
Yes. So with that, let's get into today's topic, traveling with no expectations. And before we jump into that, you might want to check out episode 3, the number 3 episode that we did on expectations in general. But now we're getting a little more specific with traveling.
Yeah, so I think before even traveling, I think just planning a trip can be very stressful.
Yes.
And thinking about the trip and what to bring. So I think what helped simplify it for us was that we said we were going to have no expectations for how the trip was going to go, how the flight was going to go, because this was our first time traveling with Lucille, who is almost 14 months now, but we've never done it before. We didn't know how it was going to go, so we didn't want to set any, I guess, standards where like, this is what's going to happen. And
right.
This is how we want it to go. It was kind of like, you know what? We have no freaking idea. We're going to go with Lucille's moods, her personality, like, because that's completely changed throughout the trip. It's been crazy. I feel like we went to Copenhagen and came back with a
completely different baby. Yeah.
It's insane. So we set no expectations. We really didn't have an agenda of what we wanted to see or any of that because we weren't sure how she was going to be. So I think just setting that tone really helped make the trip a lot lighter, because if we managed to get something done, it was like, yay, point for us.
And I will say that usually when I travel, I do kind of get a little bit of anxiety. It's like, am I going to make the flight on time? How early should I get there? And you start thinking about, all the things that could go wrong. And oftentimes it never does go wrong. And this trip, because I had the mindset of no expectations, especially with an infant with us, it made it that much more enjoyable. Like, I didn't stress out going through security or, making sure that we're at the airport on time. Like, I felt totally relaxed on the day that we flew out, and even on the day that we flew back, totally relaxed because I had no expectations. It was amazing.
And something I think we did subconsciously is that we kind of had roles. We didn't really talk about it, but I think that really made it a lot simpler for us. Like, your role was dealing with all of the flight information. Like, you're the one who booked the tickets. You dealt with the flight. Just getting our bags checked. And I was Lucille. I was all about Lucille, keeping her with me, feeding her when she needed to be fed. And you kind of dealt with all of the logistics of the traveling, which made it that much easier that we had a specific role and we stuck to it. I think it can sometimes get complicated when we want to do it all and like, oh, I'll do this part and, then I do the bags. I feel like we didn't really mix in so much as the planning. I don't know how to put that.
But we all had our defined roles and,
But without even really talking about it, it was kind of funny how it just kind of worked out that way.
No, I mean, it was just, I think that with the travel plans, because we were going to see, I don't want to say my friends, because they're our friends, but because, Danny and I were the ones kind of coordinating everything, it made it easier for me to just do the travel and all that stuff. Luckily, they have an amazing public transportation system over in Copenhagen, so it made it that much easier when we got to that airport. And we'll get into the flight in just a few minutes, but, it was... Even though we didn't talk about it, we did have very clear and defined roles. Yeah, you dealt with all of the
transportation responsibilities in Copenhagen, like getting the cards to load the money on for transportation. And so that just, I think by setting roles, I think this is kind of cool that I noticed this now because we can make sure to set roles the next time we travel because I think it made it that much easier.
It did.
Like, if I was feeding Lucille, like, man, she was on my nipples a lot.
Yeah.
That you took care of all the diaper changes when we were at the airport and on the plane, and that made it a little bit less chaotic for me.
Well, I saw how much she was on your nipples, so I was like, the least I could do is change her diaper.
Yeah, so I think just setting roles before the trip just really helped make it a little bit easier for both of us and less stressful.
Absolutely. So you want to talk about packing?
Sure, let's dive into it.
Yeah, so I want to say that packing was probably the easiest that we've ever packed on a trip. We got things, all of our stuff, me, you, and Lucille, in one suitcase. And this isn't a giant suitcase at all.
No.
This is I would say, a medium-sized bag.
On wheels.
On wheels. But there was a couple things that I think made packing easier. Number one is, I'll go back to it again, Marie Kondo and the way that we fold our clothes. It made it very easy to get all of our clothes in there because they all stack up and it don't take up as much spaces. So we were able to do our clothes.
That was your role.
Yeah.
I just gave you what I wanted in there and you're the one who packed the suitcase. So good job packing, huh?
Yeah. But it was very easy, like just getting all that stuff into one bag. And then we had to put some stroller accessories in the bag. We had to put her Ergo Baby, which we didn't even use, but that was in the bag.
Didn't take up that much space.
No, it didn't take up much space. So, we had everything in one bag, and then we had the pack and play.
Yep.
So that so Lucille had a place to sleep at night. And we both had our backpacks, which your backpack had mostly Lucille's diaper stuff, and then a couple personal things for you and food. And the last thing we had was the Bob stroller, which is what we call our deluxe stroller. It's our high end of the two strollers that we had, and
it was a Napmobile, and it was a godsend.
Yes, I will say that we brought the oversized stroller, even though it sounds stressful. Having an oversized
Bulky,
stroller, it made all the difference in Copenhagen.
It made traveling that much sweeter, and she could kind of go with, I guess, the things that we wanted to do. She could just nap if she wanted to nap or not nap if she didn't want to nap. Like, it made just going with the flow. We could ebb and flow because we brought the stroller everywhere. And yes.
And there's a lot of cobblestone streets there. So if we had her regular stroller, it would have been hell for her. Like, she would be the most shaken baby in the entire world. But the Bob runs smoothly over all that stuff. So, I mean, she was sleeping even though we were going over cobblestone.
This is not an advertisement.
No, it's not.
but if you need a good stroller, get the Bob stroller.
Yeah. But it wasn't a horrible experience taking an oversized stroller to the airport on the flight. We rolled it right up to the gate. when we were here in Dulles, and we flew out of Dulles International. So we were able to roll it all the way up to the gate, fold it up. They took it down in the plane. Then we picked it up in oversized baggage when we got to Copenhagen. Now, when we were in the Copenhagen's airport, we actually had to check the stroller pretty early before we got through everything because it was an oversized item, and just the way the airport's set up, they don't allow you to take it up to the gate, which was fine.
But Copenhagen thinks of everything, especially with kids. They had these little luggage carriers that transformed into like a baby carrier too at the top, kind of like a shopping cart. Man, they think of everything. They're very creative and innovative over there, and that made it easier too. But yeah, we also didn't pack a lot of clothes because we stayed with friends. They had a washer and dryer, so I literally brought 10 items of clothing, and that was it. And
even if you're not staying with friends, bringing just a few items of clothing, every town has a laundromat that you can go to for an hour and wash your clothes. So, there was really no need for us to overpack. And there's really, when you think about it, no need to overpack for any vacation.
And I was completely fine wearing the same shirt like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. Like, I did a little challenge before I went on vacation. So that way I was like prepared to like bring less. It was the 10 by 10 challenge. If you want to check out that, just go to The Clean and Simple Life. And I have Insta stories about the wardrobe challenge that just helped make it that much more simpler and less bulky, and just carrying everything is just a waste of energy, a waste of time, because most of the stuff you don't need. You bring things just in case, and really it's like you never take it or you never use it.
The one thing that we brought that I didn't think that we would have to bring, but I'm glad our host told us to, was the rain jackets, a lightweight windbreaker rain jacket, because the first 2 to 3 days that we were there, it was a very light, misty rain, and it was a little chilly, but, those things worked, and we were able to walk in the rain. Yeah, walk in the rain, and it wasn't that big of a deal. So those are a little bit more in the bulky, at least my jacket's a little bit more bulky, but we still had room in our suitcase to pack that as well, which was awesome.
And we also didn't pack, I think, not a lot of toys for Lucille. No. We packed one book, which I think we only ended up using at the very end of the trip, and a rattle, because she really doesn't need toys. She's really curious about silverware and napkins and
cups,
papers. So I feel like this is just a good standard to set for future traveling, that we don't have to pack toys for Lucille. Right. She finds excitement in what we find excitement in and things that we use. So it was nice not packing a bunch of stuff for her, just her clothes, and that was it.
And that's the other thing. I think the last thing I wanted to mention on packing was that we also didn't pack any diapers except for what we needed on the plane. You can always buy diapers at your destination.
They're bulky to take.
They're very bulky, and so we had a package of diapers waiting for us when we got there from our friends, and we were able to bring a few home. We didn't go through all of them, but we only had a handful really to bring back home, which lasted through the flight.
Yep.
So it was perfect.
Yeah.
Anything else on packing?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah. So it was very easy. So let's talk a little bit about the flight.
Yeah. So the flight. So we didn't have to buy a ticket for Lucille. She didn't have her own seat of any kind. We honestly got a bonus when we got on the plane. So we boarded the plane at the end. I know sometimes they let children get on the plane at the very beginning. We waited to the very end.
The hell with that.
It's like, I don't want to be in a confined environment with Lucille, who, she's just going to want to crawl and explore. And so we waited to the very, very end and then got on the plane, which worked out really well. And when we got on the plane, we had these really nice seats that had extra space in the front. And the extra space was because they have a bassinet option, which we didn't know.
Had no idea.
No idea we could get a bassinet that just kind of hooked into the wall, which was really, really nice. We were not planning to put her in something to sleep. We were just planning on holding her and just letting her fall asleep on us. But the fact that we had that bassinet and we could just lay her in there, I think she slept for about 3 hours on the way there. It's an 8-hour flight. It
was 3.5, yeah. And it was a red eye too. We flew overnight,
which was nice. Yes. Flying a red eye with the baby was, I think a lot of parents had told me that was
highly
a great idea. So yeah, the flight was not as chaotic as, I guess, we paint these worst case scenarios in our head, but because we went on there with no expectations and a positive mindset, it was really nice. And we met parents of a little girl, like they were a set of parents right beside us too, which made it a little bit sweeter. So we got to meet and talk with some parents of like they just had a baby. Like
it was their first flight with a baby, and they were going through the same thing that we were going through.
So it was fun to connect to people and just kind of share what we were going through with her, Lucille, and Lucille made a new friend.
Yeah.
Which was cute.
But yeah, for those who are worried about traveling with an infant, it can be fun. It can, go perfectly well. I will say, when we were originally planning this flight, we were going to go on WOW Airlines, and I'm kind of, looking back on it and saying, thank God they did go bankrupt, because we would have had to connect in Iceland. It's kind of like Southwest, where it's just, you pick your seats. So we would have had to board first, because we would want to get pretty decent seats.
So our flight that we took, there was no stops. It was direct flight.
Direct flight, yeah. So we flew Scandinavian Airline Systems, which flew out of Dulles. It was worth the drive to Dulles, which is about an hour and 10 minutes from our house. And they treated us very well. Even the folks at the airport, when they see that we are with an infant, they will allow you to cut the line in security. When we came back, Lucille fell asleep in customs in the line, which was an hour and a half. And that's another topic for me to gripe about. But
you don't need to gripe about it. Everyone had to
ridiculous.
go through it. We're all about positivity here. We made the most out of it. It was
but
fine.
They jumped us because Lucille was asleep in my arms, which was awesome at the same time. But the flights were very easy. Like, your boob was on demand for Lucille.
I'm grateful that I am still breastfeeding, because it did make it less chaotic, that she could just get on me whenever she wanted to. Anytime she got fussy, or you could just tell she was getting cranky or tired, instead of trying to soothe her with, just by rubbing her or just singing to her. Literally, the boob is my best weapon, and I'm not probably going to be breastfeeding much longer, because that really was a good last hurrah for me, because man, I feel like my nipples are going to fall off now, but I'm grateful for them, and they worked very well.
You were a rock star.
But we also brought snacks for the plane ride, which made it easier. She really loves those little packs that you can squeeze that are mixed with beets and carrots and spinach. And we did bring Lar bars, which were a big hit for Lucille. And
they're very small and easy to pack.
Yeah, and the flight did give us 2 meals. They were okay, but we're glad we packed snacks, because if we didn't like it, which on the way home, we were not a fan of the meal.
No.
We just nibbled on our snacks. So I think being prepared with food and just having water was a game changer too. Because I could have been very hangry if I didn't have snacks. I could see myself getting in a totally different kind of headspace, because when I'm hungry, it completely changes my mood.
And that's another reason why I'm glad we didn't choose a budget airline, especially flying internationally for 8 hours. That would have been a little bit more probably brutal. We probably would have had to pack a little bit more than what we packed. So I'm glad that we actually spent a little extra money on getting a flight that was direct, that served meals, and was very kid friendly.
Agreed.
Anything else about the flights, Jilly?
Oh, and they had TVs, but we didn't use them at all.
No.
And I don't know about you, but I felt it made the flight go a little bit quicker, because we were constantly interacting with Lucille and just going with her. She was on the floor at some points playing, and we were interacting with her. But we didn't have time to be on. When she was asleep, I was sleeping.
Yeah.
I know you may have gotten on
sleep
for a little bit, but we didn't use the screens at all to entertain her. Plus, she doesn't really like screens. She'd rather just look at the people. She's all about people watching, and now she's at that stage where she was saying hi to everybody. So I just thought it was interesting that they had entertainment if we needed it, but we didn't use the distraction.
Lucille was the entertainment.
Yes. Yes, she was.
In a good way.
All right.
All right. So you want to dive into the experience?
Yeah.
Our vacation experience?
And I think a lot of the stress in traveling can also come about when it comes to spending money.
Yeah.
And I think Nick and I are both on the same page. And if you want to check out our budgeting episode, our value is definitely experiences. That is one of our huge things that we make sure that we save in advance for. So anything that has to do with activities or food or going out, we made sure to really plan ahead and save an abundance of money so that we weren't,
stressed.
Yeah, we weren't stressed or worried about, oh my gosh, we can't get coffee like 3 times during the day. Like that's going to be out of budget.
We did drink a lot of coffee.
We did, and we just did what we wanted to do, and just being able to make those decisions and not have to be like, well, let me look at my budget and let me look back and see how much I spent. It was really just carefree because we knew we saved so much money. We were going to be okay with whatever we decided to do on vacation, and that's what we value. And not everyone may have the same values, but it was really good for us. It
was great. And part of the reason why I think we had an influx of money this time is that we didn't take a big vacation last year because Lucille was born, and we weren't going to go anywhere far away from her. So we had a little bit extra this year, and we still have a lot of money for another vacation, which we're looking to take a little bit later this year. Charleston, looking at you.
More getaways.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where we didn't think twice about spending money on anything, and it was great.
And I think money can be a huge stressor when you're traveling.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we planned ahead to minimize that, even thinking about it.
So, if traveling and vacationing is important to you, make sure that that's in your budget strategy so that you're not stressing about it when you do travel, because that can take it could be a big damper on your travel plans. So just make sure that you have an abundance of money there that you can just spend it how you want to, because again, kind of one of those things with going in with no expectations, we had no plans either. And
which made it fun because each day was fun. Like, what do we want to do today? And I want to mention, I think that helps simplify traveling as well. If we didn't have this rigid expectation or rigid schedule of what everything we wanted to see when we went there, it was kind of like we woke up, we talked to our hosts and said, hey, like, what do you guys recommend? And we picked one thing. We picked one thing to do, and then if we happened to explore and come across a park or a different part of town, then we enjoyed it. But it was nice just planning one thing during the day, and then whatever happened. It just created more space for just exploring and hanging out at parks and picnicking.
We picnicked a lot.
I loved eating outside. Like, the parks there are beautiful, and just seeing everyone outdoors there, like, I don't know if many of you know about Copenhagen, but I mean, their primary way of transportation is biking. So
there are more bikes than humans there.
Yeah.
Fact.
So just seeing everybody outdoors all the time was just really inspiring, and just makes me want to be outdoors even more here in Maryland.
Yeah. No, it was amazing, and it was just nice to say, oh, hey, there's a park. Mm-hmm. Let's go.
Yeah,
chill out and grab
a sandwich. Yeah. We'll grab a pastry because we ate a lot of pastries.
We had a lot of pastries.
And we always had a blanket with us, which was great. We didn't bring a blanket with us, but, our host said, hey, like, you're probably going to need this. So we kept one in the bottom of our bob stroller, and I feel like we were always busting out that blanket and laying somewhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere. It was really fun.
Yeah, no, it was great. So, let's see. What else? Eating. We ate a lot.
Good idea, hon. We did. We ate a lot, and I think one way that, I don't know about you, it made me feel a little less stressed was the fact that we had access to a kitchen.
Yes.
So I get kind of weird when I have to eat out all the time, because I know that's just a lot of consuming things that may not be the healthiest for me. So being able to prepare breakfast every morning made me feel a little more at home. So I think having that access to a kitchen was really great for me. Every morning we would have coffee, we would make breakfast, and then we would pack some kind of lunch for Lucille. And that made it easier for Lucille too. We could kind of prep her meals before and put in a little cooler bag that we would just put in our backpack. So I think just having that access made it a little bit less stressful for me. And then lunch and dinner were like, we didn't know what was going to happen. We kind of just went with it and said, hey, we'll figure out lunch when we're out. We'll figure out dinner when we're out.
Yeah.
And it made it a little more streamlined.
Exactly. It also helped that it was Jazz Fest when we were there.
Yes, we did not plan for that.
No, we did not plan for that at all. And I think that kind of goes back to eating and even drinking a little bit. We would, pack lunches and go sit out on the grass and listen to jazz or have a couple beers, which is one of the things you can walk around with beer anywhere in Copenhagen. Mm-hmm. So we would grab a couple beers from the market, head over, lay out the blanket, and, just kind of chill back and listen to some jazz.
And I think, honestly, because we walked everywhere, I mean, I really don't have guilt when I eat, but I think it made it even sweeter knowing that, hey, we're walking a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat and drink whatever I want.
Yeah.
And I think I enjoy vacation more, and I'm just a happier person overall, is when I get to move a lot on vacation. I'm not a huge runner, but I like walking. So the fact that we could walk anywhere in that city and just go any place we wanted to go was just phenomenal. That made me definitely a happier and less stressful person on vacation.
Yeah, I mean, we had public transportation access, so some days we would take the bus to the train, or we would walk to the train into the city, and then the last couple of days we were like, F that, we're just going to walk to the city from their place, which is a long walk, but man, it was gorgeous. You walk right along the water.
It's beautiful.
There's paths everywhere, and there are bike paths everywhere, so it's very pedestrian friendly there.
And I think there's something to it, like if you're traveling internationally, you're on a flight for a really long time, you want to have a vacation where you can get to anything you want to get to just by walking. Like you want to be in a city that's it has great walkability, because to me, walkability equals happiness. So I think that it worked out really well that Copenhagen was one of those cities, and it made me happier being able to move whenever I wanted to.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the sleeping arrangements.
Yeah, and we had a lot of our listeners ask questions about like what we did with Lucille because of the time difference. There was a 6-hour time difference.
Okay.
So getting there, I was exhausted. I didn't really sleep much on the plane.
No, it's impossible for me to sleep on a plane. I know you've been able to kind of doze in and out, but it's even, I guess, a little. Even though the Lucille was in that bassinet and she was kind of zipped into it just in case we both fell asleep, like there are safety precautions and stuff like that. You still wanted to like be there when she woke up too, so or in case she got startled or if there was turbulence, which there wasn't. But yeah, it's tough to sleep on a flight, and when you're moving ahead 6 hours, it can get a little tough. That's where the jet lag comes in.
Yeah, so we got there and I was extremely tired, and I know I took a nap. Lucille took a nap. I think a lot of naps I had with Lucille in the mornings were together on our bed. And the first 2 nights, Lucille did not want to go in her pack and play. I think she was just just going through all these changes with waking up and sleeping, So the first 2 nights, she did not sleep in her pack and play. But after that, she did. But it was funny. We had to develop a routine where she would fall asleep and we would put her on our bed first, and she would just sleep on our bed. And we had to wait till she got into a deep slumber, and then we would transfer her into the pack and play. And that seemed to work really well.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we didn't change much. I mean, I feel like we had very slow mornings. So we would go to bed. I mean, some nights I would go to bed at 9. Some nights Lucille would go to bed at 9. Some nights I would go to bed at midnight. And some nights Lucille would go to bed at midnight too. So there was no exact bedtime because of the time difference. We just kind of went with how our bodies were feeling. And we made it work. And if Lucille was tired, she slept in her bob. Or that one time she slept on you when we were walking in the museum.
Yeah.
She was getting really fussy. We couldn't have the stroller in the museum. You were carrying her, and it was in like this really dark setting because it was like setting the tone. It was very easy for her to
fall asleep there.
And you carried her, and she slept for like a good 30 minutes. So Lucille got a lot of naps here and there, and we just went with it. It was a lot of fun.
It was great.
I guess if I had to worry about one thing, it was going to be the time change, and it really was a lot less chaotic than I thought it was going to be.
Well, and one of the nice things about Copenhagen, especially this time of the year, is that it does stay daylight a lot later than it does here in Maryland. So it was light until, they said sundown was like 9:54, but really you could still see blue sky at almost 11:45 at night. Now, I mean, that was basically dusk at that point.
Yeah.
But even though the sun, quote unquote, went down at 9:54, you still had about another hour of quote daylight, really.
Yeah.
So it made it easier for us to have slower mornings because we knew we had a lot of daylight in the day.
True.
So we would wake up maybe around 7 because Lucille would wake up. We would do whatever, and then next thing you know, Lucille and Jill are back asleep.
Yeah, we would sleep until like 9 or 10, and then once we woke up, we would have coffee, we'd make breakfast, and we probably wouldn't get out of the place until maybe like 12 or 1, and then that's when we would start our day. But that was the great thing of creating space in our schedule. Like we had no expectation of being somewhere at a specific time. We just kind of got there when we got there, and it made it a lot easier. So
yeah, we adjusted to the environment that we were in. I know if we were in a different time zone or a different place on the globe that got a little less daylight, we probably would have jump started our morning a little bit earlier. But because we had such long days and we realized that, we just kind of went with it.
Yeah, we just listen to our bodies. I mean, I'm all about, if I feel tired, I'm going to sleep if there's a bed around. So there was no like forcing Lucille to go to bed at a certain time and waking her up at a certain time, because that's just not me. I just kind of go with her bodily cue. So whenever she wants to sleep, we let her sleep. When she wants to wake up, we let her wake up.
Yep.
We're definitely not those parents that are very rigid and strict with scheduling, especially going to a completely different environment. We know there's already going to be a lot of changes, and we just want to make it as less, stressful for her as well. So yeah, that's all about our sleeping.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to jump into?
No, I think we're ready to go into
some resources. Let's do it. What do you got for us, Jilly?
So the resource for today's episode is a book that I read when I was in Copenhagen. And if anyone doesn't know much about Copenhagen, they have a certain vibe.
Yes.
In Denmark. And it's called Hygge.
Hygge.
Hygge. It's spelled Hygge. And this book was titled The Little Book of Hygge, The Danish Way to Live Well. And this book, it kind of explains kind of the feeling of Denmark and the feeling of Copenhagen in general. And it's not something, it's hard to explain it, but it's a very chill, cozy, comfortable place.
Right.
They try to make it very relaxed and not very, formal. And
yeah, a lot of it just kind of aligned with our values and how we feel about life. And it was just, there's no translation for it, and there's no English word for it, but it's just a feeling.
Is a Norwegian word, and it means well-being. And for anybody who didn't know, I didn't know before we went to Denmark, but Denmark is often said to be the happiest country in the world. And they say it comes down to one thing, and that's the hygge, which is, it's translated as everything from the art of creating intimacy to coziness of the soul and taking pleasure from the presence of soothing things. And we're all about taking pleasure for the simple things. And
we Hugged hard.
We were Huglet.
Yeah.
So the resource I have is, they named in one of the chapters, and it was a very coffee table book. Like, you could pick it up and read it. Mm-hmm. Any chapter you wanted to. It almost makes me want to buy it and keep it here, because I'm all about keeping this Hygge vibe going in Maryland. But they had a chapter, and it was 10 inexpensive Hygge activities. I hope I'm really saying this right. Every time I say it, I'm like, Hygge.
We called it
Hygge. So 10 expensive Hygge activities are, number 1, bring out the board games.
Yeah.
So maybe watch less TV, play on your iPad less. We don't have iPads, but bring back the basics and just chill over some fun board games. Yeah. Number 2, have a pantry party. So bring ingredients to make something that goes in the pantry or a fridge. So like, invite your friends over, and, one friend can bring over ingredients to make jam, or maybe another friend can come over and bring ingredients to make bread. And then all of these people have different things that you can munch on and grub on, and it's kind of cool. Number 3, TV night. So maybe have a night where, like, we're going to watch Game of Thrones together, even though Game of Thrones is over. But,
no spoilers here.
Making it a point to gather together over a movie or something like that. Number 4, set up a mini library in your house if you have a lot of different families living in your environment or in your neighborhood. And I've seen that some of the neighborhoods around us where they have a take home library where it's a little stand that sits outside, and you can borrow books and then put them back in. So
yeah, those are pretty cool.
We should start something like that in our neighborhood. That'd be kind of cool.
Be able to do that.
Oh, and I didn't mention this, but Hygge is all about making time with family and friends. So all these activities I'm mentioning, I'm sorry I didn't say that before, are all about just getting together. They want to just encourage you to just spend more time with your family and friends. So all these activities are things you don't need a lot of money to do, but it forces you to just have a sense of community. Number 5. So I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Is it Boules? Boules? They were playing this game in Denmark a lot. It's like with the balls.
Oh yeah. It's kind of like what's that game? Bocce ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a And to us, I think it translates into yard games. So any kind of yard game. What's that one yard game you have?
Viking chess.
Viking chess.
Yeah, that shit's awesome.
Yeah, so any kind of activity involving just being outside and playing games. Number 6 was make a fire.
Lord Jesus, there's a fire.
And we have a really nice little chimney. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
But we never have wood, so I think we just need to be proactive and say, hey, we need to buy firewood so we can just
pick
have
some
friends
up at
come
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven?
They sell firewood.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, cool. Number 7 is outdoor movies, which
I used to do that a lot.
We used to go to Baltimore and do that.
Flicks from the hill or on
Flicks
the hill.
on the hill, and it forces you to picnic and hang out with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 8 was having a swap party. So this is like when each person brings something that they don't use. So I think this would go really hand in hand with the decluttering episode we did. And so if you have something, you're like, wow, I spent a lot of money on this, but I don't use it anymore. I think you could totally bring that object to someone's house and everyone brings one thing and maybe you could find value in what somebody else has.
Yeah. That would be fun.
Right?
Yeah. Who wants to do a swap party? Message us.
Number 9 is sledding, which you can only do if it's wintertime.
Which is funny. They don't get a lot of snow.
But so they mentioned having a winter picnic, which I never thought to have a picnic outside with like hot wine. What is it, like mold wine? Or I don't know how to pronounce it.
I drink my wine.
I know. I prefer to get cozy and come in and have hot chocolate, but I thought it was cool just like getting people together to go sledding and like, hey, come back to our house. We're serving hot chocolate and other hot goodies.
Yeah.
And number 10 is play.
Play hard.
Just play. Go to a park. Play with your kid. You don't have to just watch them.
Shit, we were playing in the park. It was fun.
Yes. So I think, we're happiest when we're involved in engaging in leisure activities, but I think adults have a hard time of doing things without having a purpose. Like, we need to work to make money. We need to exercise to lose weight. But why can't we just play to just have fun? Like, I think we need to do more things just to have fun. And it's hard when you're an adult to remember that. But we need to instill our kid-like vibe back in us.
I agree.
Play more.
Oh, absolutely. And it's nice because Lucille really brings that out. Like, now that she's able to roughhouse a little bit more, it's fun.
Roughhousing is actually very good for child development.
Yes.
So keep roughhousing, babe.
Will do. All right. Is it time for the quote of the day?
It is.
Quote of the day with Jilly Kostelniak.
All right.
What do you got here for us? Paper.
I had to use my paper notes, my handwritten notes. So this quote is from the book that we mentioned, which we will put in the show notes in case you want to read or learn more about hygge, because it's pretty cool word to use, and it sets a really good vibe and tone.
Sorry, Denmark, we're stealing your shit.
So hygge is all about giving yourself and others a treat. It is about savoring the moment and the simple pleasures of good food and good company. Hygge is about making the most of what we have in abundance and making it the everyday. And I think everything about that word is definitely aligned to us, and our take action is just to keep enjoying the simple things and realizing that there's a lot of things around us that just bring pleasure and joy to us, and we don't need to buy happiness. No. We got it right here amongst us.
We can make it ourselves.
We can.
Yes.
It's all about
who
you're with.
That was lovely, Jilly.
Right? Thank you.
Yeah. Any bloopers you wanted to go over?
Oh,
For those of you who are now still listening, you get the pleasure of listening to some bloopers from our trip because we had a few of them.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be
funny it away.
Just to share that the trip was not perfect by any means, but there were some funny incidences that happened on vacation. One of them being is that we walked to the city, which is about a 40-minute walk.
Yes.
We're in the city exploring, and we were planning on having dinner in the city as well.
We had reservations,
and we're hanging out, picnicking, and we're like, all right, we probably should change Lucille's diaper now because she's getting pretty wet. We were those parents that waited a long time before we changed our diaper.
Yeah, we did.
Whatever, it worked. And so we set her down and changed her diaper outside on her little picnic blanket, and realized that Mommy and Daddy forgot to pack diapers.
We didn't pack diapers, and we had one that was probably 2 sizes too small for Lucille.
It would have been like a thong on her.
Yeah. So we had 2 options. We could either go to the grocery store and buy another pack of diapers, which would mean more diapers coming home with us, or we can walk back home and kind of regroup, which is we took option B. So I'm glad we did.
Which was really nice about that is that because we went back home, we're like, we don't want to venture back into the city for dinner. So Nick had the great idea. How about we just chill here? Let's go dip in the canal because we had yet to go swimming in the canal, which is like a huge thing in Copenhagen. People are just swimming everywhere in the city, and it's so cool to watch. So we made time to do that, and then we just
water was cold.
It was cold,
but it's rejuvenating. It's no wonder they all look young. They bathe in cold water,
and they bike everywhere. And they're Hygge.
Yeah, they're Hygge.
But yeah, we ordered Chinese takeout. We sat on the patio and had like a little picnic. What did I say?
Chinese.
Jesus.
Two different cultures, Joey.
We had sushi, and Lucille loved being outside on the patio.
Oh my God, she loved that patio.
Yeah.
Man, that was great. So yeah, we took a blooper and turned it into a positive. Another blooper is we forgot to feed Lucille
solids. No, we fed her a lot of liquids. We fed her those like pouches, those yogurt pouches.
We didn't have much in the long lines of solid food that day.
Yeah, there was one day where I got a lunch and I keep forgetting. Somehow, I don't know why it still doesn't sink in that I have a daughter, but I keep ordering food that Lucille, it's questionable if she should eat it.
Right.
I ordered a salad that had pickled beets on it. I'm like, oh, Lucille loves pickled beets. So I took one of the beets and I put it in her mouth. And then I had the beet. So, lesson for Jill. I should always eat what I'm going to give Lucille first, just to make sure it's okay. So, I put the beet in her mouth first, and then I ate the beet, and the beet was very hard, and it was a large beet. I'm like, oh shit, Lucille is not going to be able to swallow this or chew it. And then sure enough, you could see Lucille like making this noise, and the beet slowly starting to come out of her mouth. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness, her reflexes are pushing out the beet. But lesson also for mom, make sure your lunch is easy to eat for your daughter who is now eating foods.
Or Papa should have just offered food, but he probably just stuffed it down.
Yeah, why is it always on me? Papa could have fed her.
No, it's on us. So that was it's like never on one of us. It's on both of us.
So one day she had a liquid diet.
Yeah,
it is.
And
what it is.
She made it be known when we got home, and we were like, you know what? We really didn't feed her that much food today.
And so the running
joke was... She calmed down right after that.
The running joke was, like, we're feeding her daughter today. Like, look at us, watch us. We're stuffing food in her. So that was kind of funny.
That was funny.
I think we had one more.
I think it was we were going to talk about the TSA or the line coming in.
Yes.
And we mentioned it earlier in the podcast, but yeah, we were in line for getting back into the country, going through customs, and it was about an hour and a half wait. Poor Lucille, it was like her bedtime in Copenhagen time,
she was
so
really
she
tired.
was just exhausted. We
didn't have a stroller.
Didn't have the stroller because it was in the oversized baggage. Mm-hmm. But I carried her, and man, the looks that she got, everyone was like, oh, you guys should be able to jump to the front of the line.
Yeah, so eventually she fell asleep.
She fell asleep. We got closer to the front, and then the one of the customs lady who was kind of directing you which line to go into said, you guys come with me, and she put us in line and got us through a little bit quicker. So it was really nice. And I will say that traveling with a baby was great because a lot of people recognize that and they go out of their way to help you out. So, it doesn't have to be a nightmare. I know a lot of people think that traveling with a baby is an absolute nightmare, but it doesn't have to be. And I think if you take anything out of this episode, it's all about your mindset.
It is. I think it's easy to find the struggle in everything and complain about everything, but it's really hard to find the positive and say, you know what? It is what it is, and we're going to make the most out of it. And I think we did a pretty damn good job of making the most out of it.
Hell yeah.
I think our mindset is what made the trip that much cooler. And we turned a lot of the quote-unquote problems into just really fun adventures. And I'm excited to share how we do that with Lucille so she can learn, there's going to be a lot of problems in life, but it's all about how you make it and approach it.
Yeah. And Lucille, if you ever listen to this episode, you did amazing on your first international trip. We're so proud of you.
Girl, you rocked it.
Yes. So, everyone, thank you so much for listening. We hope you had some great takeaways from this episode. If you like what you heard, please share, review, comment, write to us. We're happy.
Yes.
We're always responding to our listeners. But thanks for listening, and we will talk to you again next week.
See you later, guys.
We want to thank everybody for listening today. Please be sure to subscribe and sign up to receive notifications so you know when the next episode is live. If you like today's episode and know someone who could benefit from the topic we covered, please share it with them. And if you have any suggestions for us or want to chime in on today's topic, you can email us at simplifiedchaospodcast@gmail.com, and that's chaos with a K, or send us a comment on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Thanks again for listening, and we will see